Rambam. We're learning the laws of the Holy Temple. Let's get right into it. We're in chapter 9, and we're speaking about now, in Halacha 1, how is the forehead plate made? This is for the Kohen Gadol, the high priest. He had a little plate over here that said, well, we'll see over here. We make a plate of gold, 2 finger breadths, right, like this, wide, and it extends over the forehead of the high priest, Kohen Gadol, from one ear to the other, upon which it's written, Kodesh La Hashem, on 2 lines, Kodesh on the lower line and to Hashem on the upper line. So you're reading down up rather than up down. If the words were written on one line, it is valid. There were times when they were written on one line. Okay. Halacha number 2, the letters would project outward, right? They were projected. How was this done? A craftsman would engrave the letters on the back of the plate while it was pressed with beeswax until they project. If the holes on each of it had holes on each of its ends, right here, this is an end, this is an end, it had a hole. There were a strand of sky blue wool below it that ran from the hole to hole so that it would be tied with a strand at the nape of the neck, right? So here, and it'd be tied behind back over here. Okay, is that clear? Next, the cloak, which is called the me'il. We have a picture over here, right? It's entirely sky blue colored wool. Its strands were 12-fold, right? Its opening was woven, and that is where its weave began. It did not have an opening for its arms. Instead, it was divided into 2 flaps from below the throat and downward like all cloaks. It is joined only directly below the throat. Yeah, but you see here, it has arms.
The arms aren't part of the cloak.
One who tears the border of the opening of the cloak is liable for lashes, as the verse says, it shall not be torn. This applies to all priestly garments, right? Not to tear it. One who tears them with a destructive intent is liable for lashes. Okay. One should then bring sky blue wool, red wool, and scarlet wool, the strands of each of these spun 8-fold. Wow. That's a lot of spinning and a lot of threading together. This is necessary because it says in the verse, the pomegranates of the cloaks hem should be made from the strands that are twisted.
So we learned this already, but not the measurements. Okay.
We learned this when we did Chumash.
Yeah, not the measurements.
Yeah, thus there are 24 strands used for the hem of the cloak. They should be fashioned into shapes resembling pomegranates whose mouths are not open and hung from the cloak. See that over here, right? The bottom over here. Well, as we're going to see, there's a bell, then a pomegranate, a bell, a pomegranate, bell, a pomegranate.
There's no sleeves on the cloak.
It's interesting that it's 24 threads.
3 different types of threads, each one 8, which made it 24, right?
Yeah, but the priest, the Kohen, receives 24 categories of gifts.
Gifts. Yeah. They should be fashioned into shapes resembling pomegranates, as we said, with the mouths that are not open and hung in the cloak. He brings 72 cups with 72 clappers that are made entirely of gold and suspends them from the hems. 36 the hem on one flap and 36 on the other flap. Right. These are the bells that we just said, right? Huh? No, 36 and 36.
Yeah, but that's
The cup with the clappers hanging in it are together called a bell. From the hems on both sides and the flaps and the cloak that are suspended in a series of bells and pomegranates, right? Intermittent, each one. Okay.
Saying that 18 times 2 is 36, and 36 times 2 is 72, so it's all, the root is 18.
Oh, the root. Okay, fine. Yeah. Number 5. The gold that is woven in the ephod. So what we just spoke about here in this picture over here is called the me'il, right? Cloak. Now we're talking about on top of this me'il, this cloak, was the ephod. Ephod was like a backwards apron. Oh, wait a second. I think I have pictures here. Wait a second. Here we go.
Oxford Road.
Okay, here's the robe that we just spoke about, right?
Mhm.
And here's the bells and the pomegranates, you see below.
Mhm.
They're on the bottom over here. Now we're going into the ephod. This is the back side. It's an apron. The front side, you see the front side, it's an apron that's got an opening on the front side.
And it's got suspenders.
And tied to it is the breastplate.
Mhm.
And tied to it is the breastplate to the ephod, which is the apron. That's what we're talking about now. So the gold that was woven in the ephod and the breastplate was mentioned in the Torah was made in the following manner. A strand of pure gold rather, was taken and placed together with 6 strands of sky blue wool, and then 7 strands were spun as one. 6 of wool and 1 of gold, right? They're spun together. He would do the same with 1 strand of gold and 6 of red wool, 1 strand of gold and 6 of scarlet wool, and 1 strand of gold with 6 of linen. Thus, you would have 4 strands of gold, and there would be a total of 28 strands, right? Because it's 4 different things, right? Exactly. This is reflected in the verse that says, and they hammered out the sheets of gold and they cut the strands to fashion into the sky blue wool, the red wool, the scarlet wool, and the linen, right? So we have 3 types of wool and 1 linen. Each one has a strand of gold, right? So it's 1 and 6 is 7 times 4 is 28. This each has a strand of gold woven in them. Okay? So that's the ephod in Hebrew, it's called, right? Well, how do we say ephod in English? Apron. It's like an apron. I don't know if you ephod, call it an ephod. We'll call it an ephod, right? We're talking here about the Kohen Gadol, the high priest. He wears 4 garments extra than a regular Kohen. So we spoke about the tzitz, right? The head plate. Thank you. We spoke about the me'il, right? Which is, what was the me'il?
That's the apron.
No, that's the ephod, is the apron.
It's the poncho.
Right. The poncho, if you will.
Look,
The cloak. Yes, the cloak, poncho, right? I mean, we're giving English words to it, right? And then on top of that now is the ephod, which is the backwards apron, right? Now we have the breastplate. He would weave a garment that was a work of a craft from gold, blue, sky blue wool, red wool, scarlet linen, with 28 strands as explained. So similar idea, right, with the 28. It was a cubit long This is a cubit, right? And a zeros wide. Half a cubit, yeah. And we fold it into two. Here we have it over here.
Fold the west page.
This is folded already. Yeah. Okay. That's, you have a square zeros long and a zeros wide. So here, if you open this up, then it's going to be double height. But when you fold it, then it's half a cubit, half a cubit. Okay.
There.
So it's a square. And it should be affixed with 4 rows of stones as described by the Torah. 4 rows, each stone should be a square and a setting of gold that encompasses it from below and from the 4 directions. 4 times 3, 12, right? For the 12 tribes, exactly. You can see in the picture over here, it's not so big, but you can see over here. Right, 3 across, 4 down. He should engrave in the stones the names of the tribes according to the order of birth. Thus, the ruby, the name of Reuben. Hey, Reuben is engraved on a jasper. Right, Binyamin is engraved at the outset above Reuben. It should write the names Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Below Binyamin, which is the last of the 12, right? He's the youngest, which is Shiftei Yudke, the tribes of Hashem. And the letter should be found there. Oh, here we have. So here we have a picture online. So now these are fastening in the corners, the 4 corners. You're going to have golden rings on the 4 corners. And then you're going to have a golden chain on top and a woolen cords here on the bottom, right?
Goes over the neck and the waist.
Yeah. 4 golden rings are made in the 4 corners of the breastplate. The 2 upper rings from which the breastplate is suspended. 2 golden cords are placed. They are called chains. The 2 lower rings are in the opposite side that are opposite the high priest's breasts. They're placed 2 cords of sky blue wool. Okay. The width of the ephod is the width of the person's back from shoulder to shoulders. We said it's like a backwards apron, so the back is completely covered with this ephod, right? Its length extends from one's elbows, right, to his feet. It has 2 bands extending from it on either side, which it is fastened. They are called the belt of the ephod, and the entire garment is woven with gold. Scarlet blue wool, red wool, scarlet wool, and linen, 28 threads, as described with regard to the breastplate. He should sew it to the 2 shoulder straps, right? As we showed.
So relative to woven.
Those to the 2 shoulder straps, so that would be extended to the high priest's shoulders. Should affix to each shoulder a square sardonyx stone set in the setting of gold. The names of the tribe should be engraved. The 2 stones, 6 on one stone, 6 on the other stone. According to their order of birth, Joseph's name would be written Yehoisef, not Yosef. Yeah. That's what would be 25 letters on one stone, 25 letters on the other stone. They would be written in this manner. He's holding here the chain, shoulder strap, the rings. Okay. The stone for Reuben's name was placed on the right shoulder, and the stone for Shimon's name was placed on the left shoulder. On each shoulder, you should make 2 rings, one on top, one above, and one on top of the shoulder, and one below the shoulder, above the belt. The 2 golden cords should be placed in 2 upper rings, and they are called chains. This is form of the ephod. Afterwards, he places the ends of the cords of the breastplate in the upper rings, and then there are shoulders of the ephod. He should place the 2 strands of the blue wool, and then that are on the hem of the breastplate, the lower part into the rings, and the belt above that are above the belt of the ephod. The chains that are in the rings of the shoulders and the ephod should descend until they reach the upper rings, the rest of it, so they will cleave to each other, and thus the breastplate will not separate from the ephod. Anyone who separates the breastplate from the ephod and disrupts the connection, destructive intent is worthy of lashes. Halacha number 11. Second. Yeah. Okay, thus, when he wears the ephod together with the breastplate will be flat over his heart, and the ephod will be behind him. The belt of the ephod is tied over his heart below the breastplate. Here. As he's showing the picture over here, right? It's tied in the front, right? The 2 shoulders of the ephod lie on his 2 shoulders.
Here and the armpits, basically.
The 2 cords of the gold extend down from his shoulders on either side of the shoulders of the ephod to the rings of the breastplate. The 2 strands of the sky blue wool are tied below the elbows, and the 2 lower rings of the breastplate, and the 2 lower rings, the shoulders of the ephod, which are above the belt.
Pretty secure.
Yeah. Let's just do this last chapter. Let's just do the first halacha here in chapter 10. What is the order the priestly garment should be put on? The kohen should put on his leggings first, tying them above his navel, over his loins. Afterwards, he should put on his tunic, and then puts on his sash at the elbow height, and then he wind it fold after fold until it ends, and then tie it. Right? Okay, we're going to stop here.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi. Have a
God
good
bless.
day.